This is Coverdale's little boy, David Coverdale, on the vocals.
Aye.
Couple of cups of coffee on the table, and just before the band go on stage. Mr. Coverdale, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's delightful to be home.
And it's also delightful to see you back on the bill at Donington. The last time you were in some sort of military attire.
Well, what we tried to do was to make it, rather than just turn up and play, we wanted to make a kind of fancy dress party, just to make it different. And we spent a lot of money putting the whole crew and the security with camouflage and military colours, and everybody was wearing battle fatigues and stuff, and the backstage area was like a MASH unit and stuff, and we had 6 adorable women in khakis and stuff with bullet belts, but instead of course, ammunition, there were like airline drinks, little vodkas too. We did 100 press kits, like field dress. And of course, nobody reported it at all. It cost about £85,000, and nobody bothered going, oh, that was an idea. It's a situation of usually you go and take the money and run, which is not a philosophy I like.
You are a man that I think likes to do festivals, likes to do big events, likes stadium rock.
Well, I used to be very scared about it because of the intimacy aspect. But when Whitesnake started to grow out of the clubs and like your Hammersmiths and stuff, the intimacy was provided by the audience and the generosity of the emotional response of the audience. So the intimacy was always there. And I like to try and promote the exchange, the emotional exchange between. I like the audience to work with the band, rather than just, oh, that was that, sing along with it and stuff.
Can I mean, we're going to see the performance very shortly. Can I ask you, are you going to play any old stuff?
Yeah, we're going to do... I'm not telling you what we're going to do, but we're going to do... It'll be quite a concentrated little history bringing up to date. See, there is always a dilemma with me because with the amount of changes in personnel have been over the years, a lot of the earlier songs don't really apply to the musicians, and their approach to music was substantially different to the earlier performers. Fool for Your Loving, for instance, I was delighted with the recording of it, the new recording of it, but it's not something that the guys favour. However, they do, obviously, the 100% on the track. But we've certainly got the dust off that for Donington. But I can't just dig into the whole bag. There's like the favourites there, I would hope.
But don't you find some of the guys that you work with, like the guys you're working with now, and they're really powerful musicians, don't you find that they might actually secretly love to play some of that old Deep Purple material?
Well, we actually talked about doing Burn, to be honest. But there's a whole new audience of kids out there who are not overly familiar, because I very rarely, unless you bring it up, talk about the ever-famous Deep Pimples, But of course, they're an ongoing situation now, but it's not something that I think about or whatever. But I'd like to do Burn again. That would be fun.
What about the audiences at events like this at Donington? Tell us about do you feel any sense of responsibility for them?
Oh, total. The situation is, there was an appalling tragedy 2 years ago. It's difficult because I don't really want to get into accusing this, but there is a responsibility of the performer on stage who has the best view, of course, to see if there's any trouble. And my feeling has always been no song is important enough to ignore a problem or a scuffle or somebody going down, in the front, and I'll just stop it, and say, there's somebody down here, get them out, and then it's the easiest thing in the world is to start the tune again, or just continue where you left off. Nothing is worth ignoring potential tragedy.
I'm talking to David Coverdale here on Radio 1FM. Whitesnake soon to go on stage on the Donington Monsters of Rock 1990. Is there any time, David, you find that Steve Vai and Adrian Vandenberg overlap each other or collide?
Yeah, that's a risk you have to take. But it's very easy for a bass player to overplay or a drummer to overplay. I remember Tommy getting some major flack from British Review the last time we were here for his insensitive playing on Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. And I don't feel that. That's his approach. I've never asked any of the people I've worked with to perform like somebody else. Could you play this like Ringo would play it or whatever? I've got to trust that they will make an honest statement.
But does this mean at all that you have to change your vocal style from maybe the original version of the song?
Well, I would like to be able to... I would never want to be a cabaret singer. I like the idea of spontaneity and stuff. As long as you can... I remember years ago being very disappointed seeing the Stones in Germany, and they played the most bizarre arrangement, which I didn't recognize initially, of Honky Tonk Women. And I could see it baffle the audience too. So I mean, there must be the identity of the song there. But what you can do is just make it a more refreshing, juggle bits and pieces around to make it more interesting for you as a performer. I mean, some of the songs I've been doing for many years now, I don't want to just stand there and go through the motions. But the most important thing, once you've got your security and the musicians, is the audience. They are the power. If they want to have a good time, they're going to inspire the band to have a good time and play and try to go beyond normal barriers of musicianship. I liked a bit of entertainment as well thrown in. You know, I went through all of that Deep Purple playing with your back to the audience and stuff, which I was always uncomfortable with. You know, I remember the very first show I did with Whitesnake, I started jumping around all over the place, and it just felt entirely natural. I don't really think with Purple I was a natural, even though I was involved in the songwriting and all that stuff. I think it was just too overpowering a circumstance for a young lad from Yorkshire to walk into. You know, I think I kept my head above water, but I don't think I was as natural as I certainly became working an audience with Whitesnake. One night particular, I remember at Hammersmith Odeon, the whole back line went down, meaning all the amps and stuff. And I remember, I won't say which chapter of the lineup, but several of the band were saying, we can't go on, we can't do the encore, there's nothing working. I said, we're going on. And I remember the drummer going, well, if he's going on, I'm going on. So we did, in essence, an off-electric encore and just had the audience sing with us. So I think it was just either the monitors or just the PA. And people were crying. It was so emotional because we worked so hard, you know, because it was impossible. The guitars weren't on, you know, but we went on and did the thing, and it was just dripping with emotion. It was fabulous. It was a very special night.
Over the years, you've lived in various countries, Germany for quite some time. You now have to base yourself in the United States of America, I would say for obvious reasons, because it's the center of the rock world.
Well, I have the greatest pleasure in living in a place very similar to Cumbria, which is Lake Tahoe in Nevada, and it's beautiful. It's very without wind scale, of course. It's wonderful. It's very inspiring, and it's as far away from the rock and roll circus as you can get. Within, you know, and still be accessible for it.
But do you still feel British?
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. My mother will kill me if I lose my accent. And I have no desire to do, although my premier influence is black American music. And, of course, I go into stuff like Kitten's Got Claws, which isn't exactly school vocabulary, you know, but that's just a lot of influence. Yeah.
How long do you think you can go on?
No, I don't know. I was asked that when I first joined Deep Purple. I said 4 or 5 years. You know. I'm going to take a little break, as I said earlier, at the end of September and just have a look. I really haven't had any time off for 5 years. So I just want to have a look at myself and see if I'm happy with my development as a person. And as I say, there's no rush for me to go into the studio because the climate's somewhat off. I'd like to just put my feet up and have a look around and see what's happening. Look at my options, I think the expression is.
What about other projects? Are there other things that interest you in the music field that you'd like to do?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I did a song for Tom Cruise's movie Days of Thunder, which I did in a couple of hours. And specifically, I wanted to work with Trevor Horn, who I admire a great deal, and had a delightful 3-hour session with him. And I didn't have that overbearing responsibility, you know, and weight on my shoulders of a Whitesnake album and stuff. So I wasn't, you know, driving myself nuts. I just came in and said, well, here's the song, how do you see it and stuff. Produce me. How do you want it? This is not going on a Whitesnake album. This is for something entirely different. I'm just giving you the voice or whatever. And I enjoyed it very much. It was rewarded very nicely also, you know, but that wasn't the impetus. And I may be doing something for Clint Eastwood's new movie. Adrian and I wrote a song called You Can Never Forget Where You Came From. So whether we'll have time or not, I don't know. And whether that will actually be a Whitesnake track or not, I don't know. It doesn't really sound like one, but it's a rock and roll piece.
Do we then conclude...
Clint wanted it. Yeah. And if Clint wants it, he can have it, mate.
Do we then conclude that there's unlikely to be a new Whitesnake album for, 2 years?
I don't know. We're recording some of the live shows and stuff like that. I'm getting a lot of pressure off all the record companies to do a best of. Whether that's necessary or not, I don't know. You know, because a lot of people, certainly with the success we had in the last couple of years, people went back into what they call the back catalogue and rediscovered earlier albums that had been successful in Europe. And now, fortunately, are doing well everywhere. You know, Whitesnake sells a lot of records over a period of time. You'll have your initial thing. It's called good catalogue, I believe. You know, it depends. I may come off the road, have a month, and go, nuts, in this blessed Tahoe that I write poems about. I might go nuts. I might want to go back in the studio immediately. It's unlikely, but I don't know. I'm keeping all the doors open on that.
Well, this door's going to close behind you because you better aim yourself toward the stage.
Indeed.
Have a good one.
I certainly hope so. Thank you very much.